LSU Odyssey Live is live. I mean, that's the name of the show. I mean, LSU Odyssey Live. We have to be live for it to be live, right? I mean, you can't just say the show's live when it isn't live. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. That classic Bill O'Reilly freak out. Well, we're doing it live. And there's that photo. That photo takes me back. Spring 2022. I'm there at the varsity. And what is the name of that restaurant in the varsity? Can't remember the name of that restaurant, but I'm there eating dinner with Jack Besh's mother, Michelle Besh, one of the best people I've ever known, Michelle Besh. And she got to meet my sweet little guy, Sagey. This is when Sage was little in this photo. When was this? This has got to be maybe early 2023, something like that. Late 2022, early 2023, one of the others. Is this in spring or is this during the season? I cannot tell just from this photo. There was a bunch of trips at a time at that point. But here we are tonight. And LSU are on a transfer portal rampage. Lane Kiffin is on a transfer portal rampage. And here's the thing. You're going to see very emotional fans get upset about, oh, we didn't get this quarterback. We didn't get this guy. We didn't get that guy. And they're going to take any little thing, as, the brand is destroyed. Kelly destroyed the brand. We didn't get this guy. We didn't get that guy. Here's the thing. You're not going to get everybody in the transfer portal. You're not going to get everybody. And here's the thing you also need to understand. Even if the name at quarterback isn't sexy, I think as long as it's an established guy with some experience, can lead the room, that type of thing, and most importantly too, you get multiple strong quarterbacks, I think Kiffin will be fine developing those guys. He's developed everyone, such varying different quarterback profiles, from Matt Corral to Matt Leinart to Jalen Hurts to Jackson Dart. I mean, that is a wide breadth of quarterback. Trinidad Chambliss, D2 quarterback. He takes him into a realm where everyone's saying he should go to the NFL with a year to spare. Hopefully with a year to spare. Still waiting on that waiver. But I think Lane Kiffin will be able to deliver and be able to maximize, whatever quarterback he gets, as long as it's one of these strong names. And there's a lot of strong names in this portal right now. I like a lot of these names right now. I mean, even a guy like DJ Lagway, who's lost a lot of his luster due to injuries, the 5-pick game against LSU. There's all these things, right? Even him, I think you put DJ Lagway in the hands of a Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss calling plays within that Lane Kiffin offense, a strong running game around him. Man, you could have a damn dangerous offense with DJ Lagway at LSU. So don't just sleep on all of these possibilities just because maybe you can't picture it. But I think you got to be patient with the process. I just wanted to start with that. I don't want to say, home cook everything. We're going to call it as we see it. Just because he's a new coach and we all want him to succeed doesn't mean we're not going to call it like we see it, like we've done with every coach that's been at LSU since we've covered LSU, since we've done this back in 2018. And that's going to be as honestly as possible. Oh my gosh, Sagey's tackling me. Sagey's tackling. Did you all just hear that? He sounded like a mountain man coming out of the wild. Ah! Sagey got sand all over the living room. What's up, buddy? Don't bite that shirt. He's biting my shirt. What are you doing, Sagey? You crazy boy. You crazy man. So you he goes running off the other direction, screaming his head. So you've got a bunch of transfer targets here, and a lot of key names, and more names to come still. More names enter the portal still. You're going to have a lot of options, and you're not going to get everybody. It's not just, oh, we got lockered because we couldn't sign every single 5-star, every single elite key guy that walks through that door. You're not going to. And there's some freak out and some tremors for the first time in the LSU world due to Brendan Sorsby being projected to go to Texas Tech over LSU. Some rumblings in the force. What is it? Rumors in the force. What did he say? What's that classic line? There's a something in the force. Obi-Wan Kenobi in the, a disturbance in the force. There's a disturbance in the force. I sure you could call it a miss because we had Brendan Sorsby on campus, and he's technically still is in Baton Rouge. I think he's either just barely left or he's still there. But just because he's projected to be going to Texas Tech doesn't mean it's done. Doesn't mean it's over. But at the same time, if you miss on Brendan Sorsby, are you really like, pack it in? Lane Kiffin's done. This guy's screwed. We're done for. He might as well leave to the NFL. Like the knives are already going to come out. Like, let's relax here. Let's take a breath, and let's realize there's a wide range of top quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks in the portal. And not only that, but Sam Levitt is going to be visiting LSU on Tuesday. And he seems to be the number one quarterback in the portal. But at the same time, I have heard, this is key information, I think, from a source that, you can question our sources, you can say whatever you want. We've got a good track record. And that track record isn't perfect, but I think for what we've been able to do from across the country is a guy from Utah who really just jumped into this trying to do this for a living. I think we've pulled off some cool stuff, and I think we've been able to make some key relationships that help us do that and continue to do that. But a piece of information that I've heard is that Kiffin, Weiss, offensive staff, they want quarterbacks coach, I should say. They want a dual threat quarterback. Not necessarily has to be the starter has to be a dual threat guy, but at least one of the top two quarterbacks has to be a dual threat guy. And they were keeping an eye on, Michael Van Buren to see if he could be that guy. And of course, now we know Michael Van Buren has entered the portal. Just a few days ago, Van Buren's in the portal. And I don't think Van Buren passed that audition. I don't think Van Buren did too well in those final games, especially when he was under the microscope. Arkansas was his best performance. But I think you've got a situation where Sam Levitt is going to be visiting LSU, going to be talking to the Tigers, going to be seeing what LSU has to offer him. And that's a very intriguing target there, Sam Levitt. But really, I think before we get ahead of ourselves talking about guys that LSU are going to have on their campus on Tuesday, like Sam Levitt, I think we should talk about guys that LSU already had on their campus. And that includes, and really should begin with, LSU hosting elite talents. And yes, we'll get into who LSU already brought into the class, because LSU have got a signing in this class already with Jackson Harris out of Hawaii. And we'll get into him in a second. But LSU already hosted some elite targets. You got Penn State's defensive end, Chaz Coleman. Man, this is a guy LSU have to get, in my opinion. I don't think there's any defensive ends, edge rushing talents that are as physical, as versatile, as athletic, the type of ways that he can get to the quarterback. He seems to be able to rush the passer from anywhere. And that's a guy that LSU really desperately needs. We've had too much finesse on the outside over the years. We've had, maybe too much bulk at defensive tackle. And it's always been lopsided. You've never had a plethora of differing profiles on your defensive line. And it's frequently been on the finesse and not enough physicality side. Chaz Coleman brings you both of those in an edge rushing prospect, man. What a powerhouse Chaz Coleman is. And from what I'm hearing, LSU are in a great position here. I'm not saying it's done. LSU have got him, blah, 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 blah. I'm saying that LSU are in a very good position here. LSU have made a great case to this kid. He's really taken a shine to all the coaches, Sterling Lucas, Kevin Peoples. He's really liking the setup that they will provide for him. Blake Baker talking to him as well about a plan. And that's the thing, is this is a guy you have to plan your defense around, because he's that elite. And that's why LSU also went after a guy like Dylan Stewart, South Carolina. It's like Blake Baker doesn't have, people are going to laugh at this, but that hindsight is always 20/20. You don't have Harold Perkins anymore, where you have a guy that you thought you were planning your defense around. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a guy you thought you were going to really shape things around at the star position. And so Blake Baker really needs kind of these linchpins in his defense, guys that are really going to take that defense to the next level, guys he can lean on. He's got Whit Weeks coming back. That's official. That's been confirmed. That's fantastic news, but we expected that, right? I mean, it would have been nuts if he didn't come back. But you need a really superior front seven talent that you can really hang your hat on. You really need someone that really can play off Whit Weeks, get the best out of him, someone who can attack the quarterback, someone who can really stuff things in the running game, contain that edge, and Chaz Coleman, man, there's going to be some other great defensive and edge rushing and kind of defensive line talents or prospects for LSU to pursue. And LSU really need to get like 5 guys, if not more, in this portal class. You might need to get like 6 or 7, to be honest with you, on the defensive line, until I'm really like all in on like, okay, we're good here. But like, and it can't just be bodies. You need great guys in differing profiles. You need at least 4 defensive tackles. And then you need to add those edge guys. And Chaz Coleman, man, he is as good as they come. He is someone you have to get. And I do think that, if LSU do swing and miss here, it would be an official miss. Not getting Brendan Sorsby, a guy that it was never like, yes, LSU are going to get him. That was never really on the cards. It was like, yes, he's visiting. There's a few people who've tried to say that my post saying that time, because it was that time that he was officially like announcing that he was going to visit LSU. That came out like minutes later. And people were like, yeah, he's that time. And like, supportive of the post. And then suddenly it's Pete Thamel. A few people say that, hey, he's going to go to Texas Tech, not LSU. People, hey, you reported that he's going to LSU because you posted that time. It's like, listen to me, guys. I might have gotten things wrong. Sometimes I might get things mostly right, actually. But here's the truth of it all. If I had information that a guy like a top quarterback like that was going to commit to LSU, and I really believed in it, I'm not just posting some vague freaking thing. I'm going for glory, man. I want the credit for that story. I worked my ass off hitting the phones, trying to get information. I want credit for that, baby. Like, so I'm going to put it out there like Brendan Sorsby about to commit to LSU. That's what I would have reported, not that time. So it's very funny how people can gaslight online and get really bizarre with some of these things. But that's just trolling, and that's just where we get to when people try and it's mostly to get a rise out of you. And what I find actually really disturbing about our society now is people really get off on psychologically disturbing each other. Like, he's all it's all messed with his head because we did it. Like, I think that's really kind of sick when people kind of go after each other to kind of mess with each other's head, when it's like, our world already has enough rampant mental illness, and maybe this is just another symptom of that people are such psychopaths that they go after people at their lowest and stuff like that. But we can take the talk, we can take the hate, we can take the shade. In fact, give me more of it, baby. Give me more of it. I want more of it. Say we suck, say we can't get any story right, say we don't have any sources, and we'll just keep proving you wrong. Like how we reported that Caden Durham was going to transfer 6 days before the information came to light, before it became official. We reported it 6 days in advance. We're correct. And so I think our track record currently and in the past speaks for itself. And a post that says "that time" with a photo of Brendan Sorsby is not a report. It may be for some other accounts or some other figures. When I'm reporting something, because I make breaking from LSU Odyssey. Like, I don't fuck around. Whether we get it wrong or we get it right, that's how we report things. You look at this list. You look at this list of all the guys that LSU have coming in this last weekend, and including right now, basically today. Boise State safety Ty Benefield is very, very interesting target. I was thinking Tafiq Bayard out of Colorado would be a guy that LSU would be all in on, considering they were the portal previous. Maybe that will happen at some point. Maybe I'm missing something. Could be having a second child suddenly. We're trying to dot our I's, cross our T's as much as possible. Yep. Oh, wow. Texas A&M landed Tafiq Bayard just 3 hours ago. So Tafiq Bayard off the table. So Ty Benefield out of Boise State. And then the guy I'm really excited about on this list right here is Clemson defensive tackle Steffelen Green. I think this is a guy LSU absolutely have to get. You're going to have other defensive tackle prospects. You're going to have other solid guys. But when you saw Steffelen Green...
Yeah, I'm jumping. I'm jumping.
You're jumping?
I'm jumping.
High five, you're jumping. Rocket. When you saw Steffelen Green just become an absolute animal on the defensive line for Clemson, I was kind of shocked, because this is a guy that maybe I didn't think he was gonna really pull it together. Maybe he was a guy that I didn't think would ever really become something. And I kind of Steffelen Green. I misspelled his name. Called him Steffelen Green. But yeah, this is a guy I didn't quite rate for a while, and then man, he really turned this shit around. He barely played in a lot of games last year, Steffelen Green. But for me, the game that was really impressive is the game that, of course, we would have seen. The game against LSU. He was up front and just nasty. Nasty. I think it was 6 tackles that he had in the game, and no other stats, but he was really good up front. And then the dude had 2.5 sacks in just only 6 starts, 2 TFLs, one batted pass as well. But, okay. Oh, sorry, that's actually 2 pass breakups, my bad. 18 tackles total. Or wait, sorry. Yeah, 18 tackles total. And you get a guy like Steffelen Green out of there. I think that's a guy that you need these defensive tackles. You need them. And it sucks that Jacobian Guillory doesn't have another year, because Jacobian Guillory really was putting it together this last season. This was by far and away Jacobian Guillory's best year as a Tiger, and he was really, really awesome this season. Jacobian Guillory making all these crazy plays. That moment he jumps over the line of scrimmage against, I think it was Arkansas. Man, I think he had like 5.5 TFLs and a few sacks. Like he really, that was kind of the season you expected Jacobian Guillory to have as like a sophomore, but injuries kind of robbed him of that until his final season. I I hope he's going to have a chance at the NFL and someone will put him on a roster because I think Jacobian Guillory has a shit ton of talent. He just hasn't been able to show it. You have that factor with Stephen Green where he just hasn't been able to show this talent at Clemson because he hasn't really played much. He's been there a few seasons, but he hasn't really taken the field as much as he should. Hasn't really been a factor. You bring him over to LSU. I don't think he's just going to end up being a roster depth guy. That could happen. Depends on who you get in the portal. But I think with who you have right now on roster and maybe some of the targets I've heard of at defensive tackle, he's a guy that stands out. Not the best defensive tackle target or guy that LSU could sign this portal, in my opinion. That's a guy that I've heard about potentially entering the portal. I'm very excited if this dude enters the portal. But guys like Chaz Coleman, guys like Stephen Green, you've got to add these guys to just kind of build that momentum up front. And not only that, but Chaz Coleman is a proven freak, a proven specimen. And under Blake Baker, with Whit Weeks behind him, Tamarcus Cooley, PJ Woodland, DJ Pickett on the outside, and the way that coverage and the defensive line work in tandem, and how many coverage sacks our defensive front should have had this season. And that's kind of what I would show these guys when I'd be recruiting them is, hey, look at this. We only had 27 sacks this year. Look at all these plays that should have been made. We are signing you. We are pursuing you because we want you to finish that sack, finish that playoff. You're coming to LSU to get 10 plus sacks a season. You're not coming here to fuck around and get 6.5. You're coming here to break Arden Key's record and establish something at LSU that has been there for years, but hasn't been there as a collective domination. Just maybe one or two really strong individuals. B.J. Ojolari here, Braden Swinson there. But for a longest time, we haven't had a collectively brutal, awesome, just petty, vindictive, nasty defensive line. And that's what I'm hoping we can achieve and establish here in this transfer portal window with guys like Chaz Coleman. If you get a guy like Chaz Coleman to just start things off, to kick things off, good Lord. Lord have mercy. That's how you start things, man. That's how you start really going forward, surging forward into the ultimate, as I like to say. But then look at the amount of receivers on this list. You've got Terrell Anderson out of NC State. You got Trey Wilson out of Florida. You got Old Dominion Trey Brown. And I admit I was kind of like, damn, all three of those names are literally almost like the same name. Trey Wilson, Trey Brown, Terrell Anderson. Like, I mean, my God, those are like the most like typical names I've ever seen in my life. Like Trey Wilson, Trey Brown, Terrell Anderson. Okay, I looked into these guys, and I actually like the Old Dominion guy. I actually like Trey Brown. I think that guy is fantastic. I don't think these are the best receiving targets LSU are going to be pursuing in the portal. But I think it sets a tempo of you've got strong options here. And not only these receivers here, but actually you already have a receiver now on as part of the portal, the first signing of the portal window. And damn, we should have sent the photo to ourselves, but Jackson Harris out of Hawaii. And you're talking about just being cheated out of yards. Like, how could they not get him 37 more yards? and just get him over the line, get his 1,000 yards. Like good Lord, like just get him like a 27-yard, 30-yard bomb, and he's got his 1,000-yard season. Like, good Lord, just get him that 1,000 yards. But Jackson Harris, basically 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, 49 catches at Hawaii. I understand the SEC is a step up. I understand. But this is a interesting pickup, in my opinion, because Jackson Harris could be maybe a depth guy or a possession guy, move the chains for you, catch by catch, or he could really show out here and be one of the best players among LSU's offense this season. And kind of this unpredictable nature to him, because his first 2 seasons at Hawaii, I mean, very, unsuspecting that he was going to be this guy that was going to almost 1,000 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns, almost 50 catches. I mean, good Lord, he had a season. he had an unbelievable 2025. And so LSU getting this guy just to start things off, just to kick things off, is just a great sign, in my opinion. And that's the thing is, people are getting so, we missed on Brendan Sorsby, we missed on this guy. Like, calm down. Like, there's going to be targets that we miss out on that are going to hurt, and we'll be like, hey, Kiffin should have sealed this guy, whatever. But here's the thing. You can't just own people nowadays and just like, oh yeah, we can own it. Like, some people are going to be out. They're going to get outbid. We're going to get outbid by these other schools. There's going to be a situation where they just can't come to LSU because of this, or this, and you'll never know. But hey, they used to have a drinking problem. Louisiana is probably the worst place to go for someone with a drinking problem. So then they don't go to LSU. There's just these kind of, I'm not saying that's a reason. I'm saying that there's kind of these background stuff that, in addition to NIL, in addition to who's coaching, are going to decide this type of stuff. Playing time, specifically, that type of stuff. And so, damn, why couldn't Lane Kiffin get 3 or 4, 5-star receivers or 5-star defensive ends or 5-star offensive? And it's like, bro, the playing time, the right coach, the right scheme, the right set. You've got to find people who fit. And sometimes that disqualifies guys that you want on roster, that your vision is like, damn, that guy must be on LSU's roster. Why is Lane Kiffin not finishing the job here? How come he's not getting this guy or that guy or this guy? Sometimes they don't fit. Sometimes that's as people. Sometimes that's as players. And that's why at these visits you find out. That's why you do these things. You find out. It's not just, hey, come here, let's sign you. The coaches, everybody, they need to make sure this guy actually can fit in there. Can you be an LSU Tiger? No. Actually, the question is, will you be an LSU Tiger? Like, there's an expectation of, like, you put on that jersey. Will you go that extra mile? Will you take that extra pain? Will you put that extra, mile of running into each game, that extra mile of vengeance, that extra mile of physicality, that extra oomph of violence? That's what we're expecting as LSU Tiger fans and LSU Tiger alum, LSU Tiger people, is we're expecting guys to put on that jersey and go out there and transform into something unlike anything human eyes have laid eyes on. And that's happening at LSU. And that's, I think Nick Saban understands this in a way that only he and maybe Coach Orgeron do. LSU, and maybe just diehard football people who just really get it. Aside from all of their loyalties and allegiances, when you look at who has created the most magic from a college football perspective, who has gone out there and had wondrous plays of epic, unspeakable, miraculous playmaking endeavor, whether that's Billy Cannon on Halloween night, whether that's Joe Burrow's 2019 season, Clyde Edwards-Helaire's 2019 season, Jamar Chase's 2019 season, just hell, everybody's 2019 season, 2019 in general, whether that's Jaden Daniels, Heisman epic escapade, Malik Neighbors becoming the greatest LSU receiver of all time, Josh Reed becoming the greatest of all time, Glenn Dorsey becoming one of the greatest defensive linemen in college football history, Kevin Falk doing things that we had never seen. Freshman safety LaRon Landry starting for the Tigers on a national championship squad. And then, of course, Tyrann Mathieu doing things defensively, stripping the ball out and flipping it up in the air and catching it and then running into the end zone, batting the ball to himself and then going in the end zone. Special teams plays that absolutely broke the will of the opponents. We're talking Georgia SEC championship game 2011. LSU, when you really look at it, there's a lot of teams that win these titles in a really boring, measured, calculated kind of manner. LSU, man, this is a place that wins with magic. There's a magic sensibility to the way that LSU wins. And when you're a part of it, even just covering it, even just writing about it, even just being a participant watching it, let alone being there, there's maybe outside of having kids, being married, having an orgasm, and then maybe dying or something. I don't think there's any more insane, more palpable, more transcendent feeling than Death Valley on a Saturday night. Things like that are created and constituted only at LSU. And I think there's a reason that guys like Pete Carroll, guys like Nick Saban, told Lane Kiffin, you got to take this job. And it's because you can sell the magic to these transfer portal recruits. You can sell the magic. Are you looking for the magic? You found it. It's here at LSU. Put on that jersey and you become someone else. You go to this next level. You become the greatest version of yourself that you probably never even anticipated existing. And that's what LSU is about. And that's what Lane Kiffin can sell. And so, LSU hosting all these guys, and then also UC Davis running back Carter Vargas. And then these are the visits for next week. And we should also, add Sam Levitt on for next week as well. But visits for next week, Oklahoma running back Javante Barnes, Wisconsin receiver Eugene Hilton, another receiving option. They're going to, every receiver from across the country is going to visit LSU at this point. Florida DB Jordan Castell, Eastern Carolina offensive tackle Jamarion McCrimmon. That's a guy that I would love LSU to sign, because I've been bombarded with people asking me, who is LSU going to sign on the offensive line? How are LSU going to, Kiffin, Weiss, Eric Walford, how are they going to reconstruct an offensive line that is basically losing everyone except for Braylon Moore and Weston Davis? By the way, Weston Davis is going to return. Out of all the guys who've left, the Carius Kearns, the Cohen Eccles, guys that maybe you would have wanted to stay. After what Carius Kearns been tweeting recently, I don't think many people want him to return either. If he could, but out of all the guys who were talented enough, you have Weston Davis, who allowed like 1 billion sacks this last year. He's staying. And maybe Weston Davis can turn good. We'll see. But very interesting that he stays. But now you've got LSU with some key offensive line talent coming in. And Jamarion McCrimmon is a guy that LSU, that's a must-have in my mind. That's a guy that I want to see LSU sign and bring aboard. And then you got Buffalo offensive tackle Henry Tabonsi. That's a guy I watched very little film on. I probably watched maybe 5 minutes of film on Henry Tabonsi. But what I watched, I loved. Like, the dude is just a meathead. He's just freaking aggressive. Um, he kind of is a throwback in a lot of ways, but like a lot more athletic than when you hear throwback, old school. You don't really think, yeah, but they're also got this dose of athleticism that's kind of sneaky. When you're in the trenches, you're in the heat of battle, hand-to-hand combat, and then suddenly he can just pull you and kind of throw you to the side. Um, that's something a little different. A dude that can really just check you and get you off balance, get you out of his way. Henry Tabonsi is a guy that I really am interested by. Not saying that I would love to see LSU sign him no matter what, but I'm saying that that's a guy that if LSU got, I wouldn't really be opposed to. Alabama. Alabama have an offensive tackle, Wilkin Formby, who's going to be visiting as well. And here's the thing, though. The way Alabama ran the football, do we really want Alabama offensive linemen coming to LSU? Here's what I will say. Not as a collective, we don't want them, right? Because they were terrible as a collective at Alabama, and they were terrible within that system and in that setup. But I think they come here at LSU with Lane Kiffin as their coach. Charlie Weiss is the play caller. Joe McDonald, tight ends. They've got, is Joe McDonald the receivers coach? Let me look at that. George McDonald the receivers. Joe Cox is the co-OC and the tight ends coach. That's what I mixed up. Joe Cox involved. Eric Walford as that offensive line coach. You've got this setup where those guys, most of those names, except for Eric Walford, those guys have all worked together in concert for a while now. They know what they're looking for in an offensive lineman, and I think either you're going to fit or you're not, and they're gonna really go through these evaluations with a fine tooth comb, and as well as I think you can. You're not going to hit on everybody. You're never going to hit on everybody, and there might be a few portal guys who suck this year, and we're like, damn, why did we get that guy? That guy did not do anything, and then maybe they return for next year, and then they blow up. That's how this thing works. It's you have to stick with it, and sometimes guys turn out with all that experience and things that kind of went against them. People thought Aaron Anderson sucked after 2023. He was terrible, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, every play that was drawn up and thrown his way was like the worst play call ever. But also, Aaron Anderson would run it terribly. Aaron Anderson wouldn't put like any oomph into his routes. And it just was kind of disjointed, even though that was a high-flying offense in 2023. He didn't take any real part in it. And then in 2024, he was your best receiver outside of, him and Kyron Lacey really vying for that title. But Aaron Anderson was probably the clutchest one of the two. Really, really delivered such tough, nail-biting catches. And he was a guy no one really thought was going to explode going into 2024, or at least there was a lot of pressure on him to explode. And he did just that. So I'm saying that there are lessons and there are examples of guys that have taken that next level with time. LSU, you really like over all of these things, there's the visits, the portal shopping, and now, LSU got their first signing with Jackson Harris. For me, what I really, really loved was that you brought back Trey'Dez Green. You made sure he came back. You made sure Whit Weeks came back. And you really you went through DJ Pickett, Dominic McKinley, Damian Shanklin, Harlem Berry, of course, you PJ Woodland. You really kept a lot of these key stellar Tigers going into next season, and I'm really interested to see how some of these guys are coached by Lane Kiffin. It'll be very interesting to see these guys coached by him. And man, what else are we missing here? There's something I'm like, damn, you're forgetting to talk about this. Let me look through my notes real quick. I'm like thinking like, damn, there's something I'm forgetting to tell you guys, that like exclusive info that I had that I'm missing here. Okay, here's the thing okay. So Sam Levitt, Tuesday, he'll be visiting Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday late morning. But then Brendan Sorsby just barely ended his visits, and it's LSU versus Texas Tech now at this point. But he left campus without committing to the Tigers. And Texas Tech think that they're going to get him. Texas Tech feel like they're going to bring in Brendan Sorsby. It doesn't mean it's over, but Texas Tech have feeling really good right now. And he left Baton Rouge, left LSU, left campus without committing. So I think we can assume Brendan Sorsby probably not going to be a Tiger. But Chaz Coleman, on the other hand, that is a dude LSU are more than in the running for. We're going to see where that lands, I think, sooner rather than later. He's going to be doing some visits. We could probably find his visit schedule. I'm sure he's going to visit like Ohio State, places like that. But we got him to make a visit, and it seemed to do, check a lot of boxes for him, because he knows coming into LSU, he will be the guy for us. Paul Tarver comments saying Matt Moscona reports LSU running back JT Lindsay has charges dropped against him and cleared to return if he chooses. Yep. And he's chosen to return, I believe, from what I saw. But yeah, man, that was from LouisianaSports.net. They're doing a lot of great work. I love Matt. He's a good dude. CTC Monk says, let's go. Yes, indeed, brother. Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging out with us. Let's see. Poe English, of course. Poe English is in here. He says, what's up, my guy? What are you hearing about the quarterback situation? Damn, I should have read this. I should make sure to read the comment section firsthand. And I could have read that comment leading into the whole thing, and it would have been perfect. But I think you just heard what we said about the quarterback situation. It looks like Sorsby is off the table. But, we'll see until an official announcement is made. It looks like Sam Levitt is going to be visiting LSU Tuesday. But we'll see where that goes. We do know that LSU's quarterback coach, Lane Kiffin, and Charlie Weiss all want a dual threat quarterback, whether they're getting two guys or three, but they're definitely getting multiple quarterbacks. They also had another quarterback visiting the Tigers from like Elon University or some crap like that. Like it was a guy I didn't recognize the name of, but let me look into that. Brock Heimel says he took a photo with Lane in front of Tiger Stadium next to a Bentley. You must not be watching the show, because we've been showing that photo for a long time in this show, brother. But if you are, thank you so much. Love your profile photo. That's a great profile photo. Yep, that's one of my favorite areas in Baton Rouge and around that campus. From the Tiger Stadium over to the Riverbend apartments, there's kind of that little area. There's a cool like little convenience store that I always go into and get snacks in. That's one of my favorite areas Every time I go to that convenience store, I see at least 2 or 3 tigers. You know, one day I saw a pig cage, and then 5 minutes later I saw, oh God, what is his name? I'm missing his name. One of our tight ends from the last few years. Oh, Mac Markway. I see Mac pig cage one day, then I see Mac Markway the next, then I see Malik the next day. You know, like it's all over the place. It's hilarious. But we'll see LSU have more targets on their hands. And here's some of these targets that we were gonna. Was I gonna put that on the article only? Yeah, I think we're gonna leave some of those targets to the next article. But once again, here are the names that LSU have hosted. They've got, Chaz Coleman, Brendan Swordsby, Terrell Anderson, Troy Wilson, Trey Brown, Stephian Green. I misspelled it, by the way, on that thing. It should be Stephian, not Stephelin. And then Boise State safety Ty Benefield. Then UC Davis running back Carter Vargas. And then visits for next week, Oklahoma running back Javante Barnes comes to town. Wisconsin receiver Eugene Hilton. Florida defensive back Jordan Castell. Eastern Carolina University offensive tackle Jamarian McCrimmon. Buffalo offensive tackle Henry Tabansi. And Alabama offensive tackle Wilkin Formby. We're also including Sam Levitt visiting on that Tuesday. And by the way, it appears that Cam Coleman out of Auburn, his price will be around $2.5 million. We don't know where he's going. It seems like there's a lot of traction with a lot of other Auburn guys, or Auburn's doing a lot of traction in the portal, but he's going to Texas. He was hosted by Texas. He was being recruited by Texas for a bit there. USC, Texas Tech want in on him. Alabama, A&M. There's all these suitors. I don't know if LSU is going to be one of those suitors right now. Things are looking like LSU might not be in the game for Cam Coleman. But that's just right now. Things can change. This is very fluid, more fluid than David Bowie's sexuality, guys. Things are going to flip and change. Anyway, everybody, we love you. We'll be talking to you soon. We're going to maybe do a late night edition tonight. We have a lot more to say, and I definitely want to talk to you guys for some more and see what you guys have to say. Everybody, we love talking to you. Sorry about the delays. There's been some family stuff, and we really appreciate you guys being amazing and patient with us. And we really appreciate everything you guys do for us and all the support you guys give us. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share, and subscribe. LSUODYSSEY.com. Go Tigers. We freaking love you all.